Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Now, before I go any further, I need to thank the producers of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. They include Ashley Summers from the Squirrel and Spud Shop. She and I host a Scream game every Wednesday on Instagram, so please check that out. I also need to thank TJ Jones, who comes from the Box Office Buds podcast. He is responsible for all of the graphic design of Scream with Ryan C. Showers in terms of new episode cards on social media promotion. So thank you so much to TJ for all he does. I also need to thank contributors Mark Karim, Mark Vieira, and Joey Velisi. Joey Velisi is the guy who writes the scripts for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Episode 112, we wrote a Scream 7 script, which I read out loud, about the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline. And then the sequel to that was called Screams. It was centered around the legacy of Gail Weathers. That's episode 155. And Joey is currently working on the final Scream, which this is a product that is going to examine the relationship, the marriage of Mark and Sydney. Unlike the real Scream 7, this will feature Mark Kincaid as Sydney's husband, and she won't have a teenage daughter. Both of her daughters will be young, so it'll be much different than the real Scream 7 we're going to get. But that is going to be coming to the podcast late summer, early fall, so please tune in for that. I need to thank everybody over at Patreon. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Mark Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Justin Weir, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers, and this is not only Scream with Ryan C. Showers, but this is also Scream with Box Office Buds. So if you don't know who the Box Office Buds are, they are these three gentlemen who are sitting with me here today, and they have a podcast that covers the weekly box office. Everybody, please welcome the Box Office Buds, Cheese, Tony, and Kellerman. Hey, guys.
Wow. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
As straight men, please explain the straight heterosexual activity of drafting and specifically box office drafting, because it is alien. It's an alien concept to me.
I will say, I know we do live in Trump's America, but drafting is all inclusive. Everyone is welcome to explore and enjoy drafting and fantasy teams. This league is from TJ's warped mind. He's a good friend of all of ours on the podcast, many of the listeners to the podcast. And the Box Office Buds genesis came from the Fantasy Box Office League. You see, each each of us have drafted 5 movies coming out this calendar year, and whoever makes the most money in the worldwide box office wins said league. And for your listeners, I do believe it's very important to note that the voice they're hearing right now is the only one who has ever won the Fantasy Box Office League, because I am the inaugural and only champion.
Well, congratulations, Tony. I love that for you.
Thank you.
And so, TJ and so one of our close friends, his name's Josh. TJ, Josh, and I, we have our own little group chat that we message throughout the day. TJ made me do a box office draft with him and Josh. And I don't know, I've never drafted before. So it was foreign to me, but I think I'm going to win. TJ thinks that he's going to win. Bitch, no. Like, I played to win. He made really stupid picks. I had strategic picks, and he is going down, I have to say.
That's how we feel about TJ as well. Everything TJ does, we believe is the wrong choice. So it's right up his alley to mess up your draft as well.
Hilarious. Well, let's talk more about the box office, bud. So, do you guys have, how many episodes are you in? 15-ish right now?
We just recorded our 12th.
Okay. And you guys talk about the box office and the new films in very intelligent, kind of academic ways, but in friendly ways. And you guys are really onto something. This is such a cool idea for a podcast. And I think you guys each have really cool, defined personalities that this could be a real hit for you guys.
Thanks. We really appreciate that. I mean, we certainly come from a film, writing, and TV background. Tony and I went to school together for acting way back in the day at Syracuse University. Go Orange. And Kellerman, he became a very fast friend for us out here and is an incredible writer and actor in his own right. He doesn't like to lead with that, but he is very good. An incredible social media presence. And it just, the sort of genesis for us was the league, but Tony sort of put our heads together and said, I think the three of us could create something interesting and special and a little bit different in this, already very saturated medium, and that's what we're striving to do.
Well, I think you guys are doing an awesome job. For being in a saturated medium, you guys stand out, is what I think I'm trying to say. So, sorry, Kellerman, go ahead.
Thank you.
I was just going to say it's similar to the way you have a group chat with TJ. We are also in a big group chat with this league. And there were so many interesting and hilarious and frustrating conversations happening in that chat. Tony had the brilliant idea. It was like, we could use this energy to do something.
Nice. Well, so, okay, I have to ask you guys, because this is a Scream podcast. As much as this is Ryan and his friends, TJ, is he a friend? I mean, borderline, right? On some days, but I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
It's a phone contact.
Yes, exactly. All right, we love that. This is a Scream podcast, so I have to ask you guys about Scream. So, I mean, I'm either going to make you very amenable to my listeners, or my listeners are going to be like, oh, Ryan, why did you invite these guys on who hate Scream? So let's take it away. What do you guys think of Scream? We'll start with Cheese.
I love Scream. I'm a big Scream fan. When I was in middle school, my brother went to see Scream 1, and it was like, he was in high school, and it was like the event of his high school class. I think he was like a freshman or sophomore, and I was dying to see it, and I remember crying in my bedroom thinking, why does he get to see Scream? And then when it came out on VHS, baby, we watched that thing till the cows came home, and I fell in love with it. I mean, Neve Campbell is still in my top 3 favorite female performers of all time.
Whoa.
Huge fan of everything she does. That is not hyperbole. Big fan. And I love Scream. Yeah.
I love that. So, Cheese, what is your ranking?
Oof, I wrote it down just so I didn't forget. But I'm an OG guy. I love Scream 1. Scream 1 is probably my number 1. Scream 2, I feel like it's polarizing, but that is my number 2. I think Scream 2 is excellent and a great addition to Scream 1 and really pushed it forward in a way that made it fully zeitgeist. Obviously, the opening scene in Scream 1 is iconic, but Scream 2 is maybe the best acting in the series. Then I'd probably go Scream 4. Enjoyable. I think after Scream 1 and 2, to be honest, there's a drop off, but I still enjoy them. 4, a little bit more campy, still very fun. Then this one's a little weird, but I think Scream 2022. I like it.
I like most of
them. I know that
so.
Not everyone does. I mean, it makes sense. You do have a podcast about it. Then Scream 6, and then I'm sure I'm not alone in saying Scream 3 is the bottom of the barrel.
Well, I can tell you don't listen to my podcast.
Are you a Scream?
I know. That's why I said it. I do listen to your podcast.
I'm deeply offended. And I told TJ, I kind of have a crush on Cheese, but, after this, I'm reevaluating. So,
wow. Yeah. Conflict is very important in a relationship. I think we have something here.
I'm down with it. All right. Kellerman, how about you? What's your Scream story and your ranking?
I'm also a huge Scream fan. I've known TJ since we were little kids, and he and I align on horror movies very much in that way. I had my dad buy me and all my underage friends tickets to Scream 2 for my birthday one year. It was a big underage party to see Scream 2. It was great. And I've seen every single one in theaters. The last few that have come out, I've seen with TJ in theaters.
Oh, okay. So I did not know that. Interesting. We love that. And I didn't know that you guys went so far back. So was he always annoying?
No, he's really come out of his shell in that way, I'd say.
Okay. All right. So he's gotten worse, is what you're saying.
He was a cute kid.
Yeah, got it. Sounds good. And what's your ranking?
Mine's very easy. I didn't even have to write it down. It's 1, 2, 6, 5, 4, 3.
God, you guys are killing me. The 6?
I know. I'm sorry to
Kellerman.
also put 3 last, and 6 number 3, I guess, is a hot take, but
It's okay.
I personally thought there was a huge drop off from 2 to 3, and then 4 was like, okay, it was coming back after a while, and I expected it to be worse than it was. 5, okay, even better. I feel like they've basically progressively gotten better since then.
Okay. Well, I can tell you're friends with TJ, so I'm just going to leave it at that. All right. And Tony, what about you? What are your thoughts on Scream?
Well, ever since TJ made this little marriage here and you so kindly invited us onto the pod, I've been struggling with how I wanted to say this.
Oh my God. Who did TJ bring me? He brought me Scream 3 haters, Scream 6 lovers, and someone who hates Scream. Okay. Finish, Tony.
There is no hate in my heart. I am not trying to yuck anyone's yum. I will say I love Scream, the original. I think it is a Hallmark movie, not a Hallmark movie, but up there in the rafters when it comes to horror movies and what it did for that whole entire genre. However, when it comes to all horror movies, I am so over and done with 72 sequels on the same IP. I don't want to see Freddy versus Jason 72. I know Scream is its own universe. I know all the people listening love that universe. I know they want to rank all of the movies. I have never seen a single movie after half of Scream 2 and the original Scream, so I have no ranking for you. I love the story. I love that they're coming back for Scream 7. That all makes sense to me. I don't need to see Saw 10. That's my thinking on all of it. So again,
Tony,
struggled with how I was going to say this. Just wanted
That's
to be
fine.
open and honest because I am an honest man.
So, TJ hates whenever, I bring up Taylor Swift on the podcast, but I'm going to bring up Taylor Swift. We're going to shake it off, and we're just going to charge forward. So,
Sure.
thank you guys.
Sure.
I appreciate you guys coming on the show. And I think you guys are so cool. I think your show is awesome. And I really want people to listen to it and follow you guys because you guys have, again, amazing social media, ground game content, and your episodes are really good. And I think that I find, I'm a box office person too. I grew up with film and the Oscars and film criticism. So this is actually a really cool concept. And I hope that you guys keep growing and growing and growing. So
Did you hear that, guys? I forced the outro out of him after I gave him my Scream thoughts. He's
For what
already
it's worth,
outroing
I'm
segment.
also offended that he apparently didn't finish Scream 2. What?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You guys lost a lot of people. Like, if you guys experience a drop off in followers,
Yeah,
it's
we're
because of
trying to
that
gain
statement.
followers, Tony.
Yeah. Reminder that Kellerman and I are avid Scream
Huge
fans,
Scream
and Tony barely exists on this show.
Okay, guys. So let's talk Scream 7 because going forward, there's a lot of things that are up in the air about the box office in terms of Scream. Like after Scream 5, I was pretty sure Scream 6 was going to do better than Scream 5 at the box office. Given that Spyglass really relaunched Scream's IP into the pop culture in 2022 in such a big, notable, lasting way. And because Scream 5 came out during COVID, right? So I assumed that, and I don't know if you guys know this, but it came out during the Omicron variant, that little spikes. I was nervous, oh no, the box office. But so after Scream 5, I figured Scream 6 was going to really be the full materialization of what Scream IP is in this modern era. And it was, right? So it made, probably 20 million more than Scream 5 did, which is great. So, but Scream 7 now, there's a lot of questions, right? Because, I don't know, it could go a bunch of different ways. There is the question of, will it top Scream 6? I don't know. It's hard because a lot of people weigh things such as Jenna Ortega not being in it. I personally don't think that she will make that so many people went to see it just because of her in terms of Scream 6. You have Nev Campbell and Kevin Williamson and Courtney Cox coming back to be the center, central storytelling forces in the film, which is really important to a lot of fans. You have just the mood of horror right now. A lot of people are really enthusiastic about horror. I mean, we're on the heels of Sinners having a huge second weekend, right? So, and on the other hand, we have a controversy about the movie. The lead actress from 5 and 6 she's not returning for Scream 7 due to conflicts about what the studio had about her social media postings. And, there is a small boycott for the film. It's gotten nasty to the point where, Christopher Landon, he had to drop out of Scream 7 because he was receiving death threats and the FBI had to get involved. That Melissa Barrera was let go in November of 23. This movie's coming out in February of 26. So, 3 years. That's a long time. So before we give actual numbers, I just kind of want to get where your head is, in terms of do we think, the controversy will impact it in any way? Do we think the factors are problematic? What are your thoughts? We'll start with Cheese.
I really think that controversy is for the daily ingestion of media and content. And if the movie is good, no one's really going to care about it. I think a bigger factor is just not having Jenna Ortega in it at all. I don't think the controversy behind her experience with the film and leaving it and all that matters as much. Also, you have so many people coming back from all the films.
Right.
TV Scott Foley, who I'm a huge fan of, is back along with all the other Ghostfaces. I have no idea how, but they're going to figure it out. So I think if it's good, controversy means nothing. If it's bad, they'll blame the controversy.
Right. Okay. Kellerman, what about you?
Nev Campbell's return is everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's everything. Nothing else matters. Sydney's back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about all of the other announcements also, but they're all just icing on the cake.
Well, and you guys don't know, maybe you don't know or appreciate, but or could because you don't live Scream day in and day out, but I mean, in my opinion, I think what Kellerman just said is absolutely true. In terms of Nev Campbell getting to reclaim her franchise in the same way that Jamie Lee Curtis kind of got to with Halloween 2018, I think there's a similar vibe coming up, and especially because Nev had the previous controversy, which is the pay dispute, when Scream 6 did just fine without her. So I think when you have that almost triumph too, that's a really great baked in way to talk about and promote Scream 7 in a way for most normal people. I don't think that most everyday average people know about the Melissa Barrera controversy and would care about it that much. But Tony, what about you?
I knew there was a controversy, but I didn't know that it was being boycotted.
Yeah. Well, it's a small boycott. It's mostly on social media, but yeah, it's just angry fans. But
yeah, that's what it feels like to me.
Anything.
All right, Tony, how about you?
I will say two things. One, as I said, I'm not the one that has seen all of the Scream sequels. However, all of these people coming back, it does have me interested in seeing what this could be in Scream 7 because it brings back what most people know from the original Scream. So, there's a lot of things to latch onto. Even if Jenna Ortega is not a part of it, there's a lot of things to latch onto to get the fans that don't live and breathe Scream every single day. So I think it will do well at theaters because of that. And when it comes to controversy, we just saw this with Snow White. I don't believe Snow White failed in the marketplace because of Jenna Ortega or Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot and their thoughts that they put out online. That movie failed because Disney failed to see the forest through the trees when making that film. I think everything I hear about Scream 7, you guys would know better than I think they're doing it the right way. And I think there is a lot of excitement behind what this movie could potentially be. The controversy that the diehard fans of this franchise might boycott this movie, I don't think will affect the overall success of the movie because of everything surrounding it. People are excited for it to come out.
Right. And the thing about it is the fact that Kevin Williamson is directing this, I think that the fan problem, because for the record, I think that most fans, I would say 90% of fans are on board. The fans who are boycotting are fans who just came in with 2022, whenever, Scream 5 and Scream 6. And, there's even a smaller slice of that I would say are the ones that are boycotting, right? Because there are new fans who have grown to love the old movies, right? But Kevin Williamson taking over the directing chair and with the combination of Nev Campbell being the main character again, that goes a long way to anything. I mean, I think a lot of people really miss Wes Craven and his touch. And I think Kevin Williamson is the only person, literally the only person who could recreate that or at least attempt to find the same kind of magic.
I agree.
Yeah.
His return is also a huge deal. I think that'll matter less for general audiences, but it'll make a difference in the quality of the movie, I think.
So can I pick on you guys for a second?
Please.
I'm a political junkie, and I was really curious to see how Snow White was going to go. And I was expecting it to be the Joker, like, in terms of like how the Joker Part 2 eventually ended up being. Because I was shocked that the Joker did that poorly in theaters. I thought, I mean, it's still science. It's almost science fiction to me right now to think like they did.
Crazy.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just can't remember, guys. Who drafted the Joker 2 in our fantasy league last year?
Probably TJ.
That would be TJ.
That would be TJ. That's right. Okay.
First overall, first pick.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, we gotta, for the permanent record, Ashley, permanent record right here. TJ stands Joker 2. Okay, so, I thought, I agree with what Tony said about Disney failing the movie. I do think that, like, the way that Snow White was covered by the conservative media, it became so mainstream, and I knew from the minute like the rollout started happening, like this isn't going to go well. And then on the podcast though, I listened to this episode of your show. You guys all had over. And I was like, you guys made me question myself. I was feeling like I was gaslit. Like, it's like I would have assumed 45 million, and it came in even under me. And you guys all said over 50. I was like, am I the problem? Like, do I not know what's going on? So explain yourselves.
Well,
I'm just teasing, by the way. I'm just teasing.
You are correct. You are correct.
It's a genuine like conversation point that a lot of studios are having right now, because things like Disney, like Marvel, like Star Wars have bulletproof vests when going to the box office, when going into theater. They always succeed even if the movies are really crappy or have boycotts or have stuff outside. They always seem to get the people in seats, get butts in seats, and make their money back. Snow White did so poorly that Disney is at least reportedly rethinking all of their live action studios that they're putting out these remaking of these movies. That's how bad it hit them. And it was a shock to not only us on the podcast, but Disney as well. So we all gave over because we believed in Disney, not in Snow White, and it failed miserably.
Yeah.
I thought it would overcome purely on the strength of every other Disney live action movie that's come out before it.
I tricked myself a little bit. I said that no one cares about Snow White, and yet I still thought it would make money because of the Disneyfication of the box office, and I was completely wrong. So you were correct in thinking, but I don't think it was the conservative media, to get back to your initial point. I don't think it was the conservative media. I am a diehard liberal, for the record, but I don't think it was the conservative media bashing the, putting Gal Gadot against Rachel Ziegler and having, Rachel Ziegler defending Palestinian culture and Gal Gadot being sort of the bastion of Israeli culture as the issue. I think it truly is that it was not a good movie and nobody cared about Snow White to begin with. Yeah. Whereas I think they're shooting themselves in the foot by getting rid of their entire slate because of it.
Agree. I mean, if the Tangled movie doesn't happen, I mean, I think that is a movie that would make bank. And I think maybe
agreed.
After Lilo and Stitch comes out, they may come back to reality.
I agree.
But anyway, so this is.
Do you think Lilo and Stitch is going to do well, Ryan?
Of course. I mean, people. Yeah, I think so. Do you?
Guys, again, I forget who drafted Lilo and Stitch in this year's fantasy box office.
It was you, Tony. Shut up.
That would be Tony. Right. We're not hosting this podcast. Give it back to Ryan, please.
Just asking.
I think in my draft, I think I picked Lilo and Stitch as well. So hopefully,
brothers in arms.
All right.
It's gonna be so good. It looks so great.
All right, so let's talk Scream 7 now. And because I was stalling because TJ, he was supposed to provide me the over/under number, and he wouldn't give it to me last night. So here we are.
Wow.
Half hour into the podcast, and now he texts it to me. Like, what if I had my phone on silent or, airplane mode or something? Like, this is unprofessional. Guys, before we do the over-under number, just sent in by TJ, we are going to go over just the numbers that Scream has put on the board so far. So let's do opening weekends. So Scream 1, back in 1996, had 6.3 million. So Scream 2 had 32.9 million, 1997. Scream 3 had 34.7 in the year 2000. Scream 4, 18. Scream 5, so now we're in the relevant time period here in 2022, 30.1 million, and then Scream 6 had 44.4 million. It's a huge opening. And then just for perspective, their overall worldwide. Here we go. Scream 1 had 173 million, Scream 2, 172 million, Scream 3, 161 million, Scream 4, 97 million, and Scream 5, 138 million, and Scream 6, 169 million. Okay, so the over-under number here is 50 million, which I would love. I would love that. Okay, but let's see. Okay, so Cheese, what do you think for the opening? Do you think it will 50 million?
That is a very tough line by TJ. Good work on you. I think that one of the factors that is not being put in here is that it comes out on February 27th. What is that date? It's not important. It doesn't hit any important holidays. It doesn't really do anything. It could. I think it's a complete missed opportunity to not release this on Valentine's Day, personally. Kevin, if you're listening and watching, change the release date if you can. That being said, then 2 weeks later, a week later, you have spring break for kids. I have a 3.5-year-old, so that's top of mind for me. But that could aid in like the slow burn. But for opening weekend, I am going to have to say under.
Okay.
I think it's going to make around 40, like similar to 40 to 44.
Okay. Kellerman, how about you?
Man, that was such a good analysis, Chase.
Thank you.
However, I think that this is like gonna be a huge event movie. I think that there's gonna be an insane amount of marketing around the returning cast, and I think that there's still surprises that we don't know yet. And it's gonna feel like a reboot, even if it's a continuation. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a continuation of the previous story that was started in 2022. Do we know?
Kinda, sorta. I mean, it's complicated. I would say more of a reboot, but it still follows, the
One of those
continuity.
requel situations.
Yeah, a requel of a requel.
Yeah, so I'd go over. I'd say it could make 50. Yeah, I would think that it would do better than the last two that did not have Nev Campbell in it. So I'll go over 50.
All right. So for the record, Nev was in 5, and I think that's that was.
Oh, you're right.
That was before Nev. That was also a pandemic movie, and so whatever. Okay, Tony, how about you?
For those people who are listening to the Scream podcast that have never heard the box office buds, we do an over-under every week, and I'm very nervous right now because Kellerman stinks at picking the over-under numbers. He has the worst record on the show by far. He's going to lose again from the show we recorded earlier today. He's just not very good at this game. So the fact that I agree with him wholeheartedly scares me to my core.
Whoa.
This is going to be a Titanic movie when it comes to marketing, when it comes to all these faces back on your screen, when it comes to all the stuff they can pull, the throwback images, the promotion they can do. I agree with Alche that it's coming out on a weird weekend, but that means we have a Super Bowl commercial with this movie coming out. Like, this is going to be a dominant force when it comes to marketing and pushing a movie that could be. I did not know Scream 6 existed, and it made $44 million domestically. Scream 7 is going to get a lot of people that haven't thought about Scream since the 2000s, and it's going to bring them all back to the theater to see this. I think 50 is a really good number. I believe in it a lot more than TJ does. I'm going hard over.
I like it. And, I will take the thing. I didn't know Scream 6 existed. I mean, how? But you're forgiven. So I like all of your analysis here. Here's a question for you guys. So Scream 4, as you guys may have noticed whenever we were talking about the numbers, it was the film that did the worst in terms of like domestic box office. And a lot of people attribute that to, there was a family movie that came out the same week called Rio, and it kind of stole the buzz from Scream in a way. Scream 4 was also kind of mishandled in the marketing and like kind of the rollout theatrically. And so there's a lot of factors. And horror wasn't what it is now. And Scream is kind of like the embodiment of horror or elite horror franchises. But that being said, we got some news recently that Cat in the Hat, another family film, will be coming out the same day as Scream 7. And that terrifies me to no end because like I'm a very superstitious person, and it's just like, is history repeating itself here? I also think like I agree with you. Why not move it to Valentine's Day? Move it back, like or up. I don't care. But I think that Spyglass is going to regret not having Scream be number 1 at the box office. It's opening weekend, even if it does do 50 million. Like I think it's okay. So I guess my question here is Cat in the Hat. Do we see this as a threat to Scream's success, or do we think like what are our thoughts on this coincidence here? So Chief,
Are we talking Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat again? Is that coming back?
It's Bill Hader. Bill
Oh,
Hader's
wow.
Cat in the Hat, yeah. I'll say this. I watched Cat in the Hat with my son accidentally about a month and a half ago, the original one. It's like a horror movie. It is absolutely terrifying
It's
for a
insane.
child to watch.
Yeah.
It's truly... Can you curse on this podcast?
of course.
It is truly batshit. It's all over the fucking place. It
It's
is the
crazy.
craziest thing ever, but he was like into it, so I think I'm going to have to take him to see that. I don't think, however, that it's going to affect Scream's box office at all. It shouldn't be pulling from each other. It will potentially be the number 1 movie that weekend,
Yeah.
but I don't know. That's kind of crazy to think that it's going to pull numbers from Scream 7. I don't think so.
All right, Kellerman.
There's not much crossover with those two audiences. And honestly, I hadn't really thought about it not being number one as like creating a stigma, but that certainly is a possibility, but not definite. You know what I mean? Especially now where kids' movies, you've got like some kids' movies like Dogman that come out of nowhere and just make so much more money than you expect. And then you've got kids' movies like Snow White that you think will be a shoe-in that make so much less than you expect them to. Captain America made so much less than I expected it to. That's also like for like younger audiences, it's like it's hard to say whether or not that would even beat out a horror movie at that time.
Tony?
I would worry more if it was up against something like The Accountant 2 that just came out. Even though everyone knows The Accountant 2 is going to be a crappy movie, that's still going to draw the same type of audience, like demographic, that Scream 7 would. So Cat in the Hat doesn't worry me too much. Who knows? It may not be shooting for those big numbers, even though it's a big IP. But yeah, Scream 7 and Cat in the Hat, I don't think are grabbing the same part of the pie there.
Okay, well, I mean, I would love for it to make 50. To be honest, I'm going under. I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be 45 to 48. I think they will top Scream 6. And I think that it will also top Scream 6 overall for the box office, I think, because right now Scream 6 is the highest grossing domestic box office movie at 108. I think that Scream 7 is going to do maybe 110, 120. I think it's going to eke it out over Scream 6. What about you guys?
I agree with Cheese with Spring Break being like the following week. I think that, teen audiences for the Scream movies have always been their bread and butter. So it seems like that'll definitely, even if it doesn't make the opening weekend box office, I think eventually it definitely will have legs.
Okay. So what, if you could give me a number for like what you think the domestic or international number for the total run?
Overall, total?
Total, yeah.
Take a guess.
Here's the thing. Scream 6 came so close to Scream 1. 173 is the winning number. I think it goes over Scream 1. Like, yeah. I think this is a really a real success with diehard Scream fans, horror movie fans, and also the general public. I think this is a big, big number. I think 200's not out of the realm of possibility. That's probably where I'd land.
Wow. That's just, the possibility of that just like gave me a little bit of a rush. Oh my gosh. I sound like a dork, but it is what it is. Cheese, how about you?
Great. I'm really curious about what the budget of this thing is because Scream 6 was around 24 million, I believe. And you have all these players coming back and Neve Campbell, who was in 5 but not in 6, correct? Back again. So what lured her back? Was it money? Was it the fact that of the premise? Or is this thing going to be in the 24 to 25 range as well? If it has more budget, I think there's a likelihood that they're expecting and going to do a bigger marketing push and therefore could see in the 200 range. So I'm going to say I think because of all these players that we're going to have a higher budget. So I think it's going to be more in the 35 range. So I'm going to say 210. I think this is a slow burn. This is an all of March sort of take. The opening weekend may not dictate over 200, but I really do think that this thing, it hits around 210.
Okay, Kellerman?
Gosh, I was also thinking somewhere around 200 million. I'm kind of surprised that Cheese went over 200 million. I'd really like to say a different number than both of them.
There's so many numbers between 0 and 200.
No, I know. Well, originally, I was thinking maybe closer to 175, 180, closer to the last one. But man, you guys having so much confidence in it really is persuading. I would say it's going to be such a powerhouse in my opinion. I would go 250.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And I'm going to say 180. I think we need to keep expectations realistic. So, I mean, I agree with you guys. And also I don't know, again, this means nothing to you people, but Matthew Lillard coming back to be is he alive? Is he not? What's the deal with Matthew Lillard coming back?
It does mean something to me. I love Matthew Lillard.
Oh, it means something to me. The guy who doesn't watch these Scream sequels. Yes, 100%. That absolutely means something.
Yeah. So I think that that is going to be
also
a huge thing.
He's been in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie not too long ago. He's sort of doing his thing with the younger audiences.
What I think is the biggest thing is this nostalgia piece. I mean, bringing back everyone has loved either in this movie or other movies is going to mean something for our generation. I assume you're in a similar age bracket to us. I imagine you might be a little bit younger, but we all love Matthew Lillard from a bajillion things, from Summer Catch to Scooby-Doo. The point is, I'm excited for all of that. Scott Foley coming back is also a huge draw, and Nev Campbell as always. So I think the nostalgia factor bumps this thing up a little bit higher.
Kevin Williamson also is like not to be overshadowed by the cast. His return is like really important to just what I think the movie is going to be.
Well, I have to say, you guys really made me feel really good about the box office for Scream 7. Now, I mean, like, if it's a bomb and it flops, I'm blocking you all and never speaking to TJ again, that's for sure. Because I think that I'm being like, conservative in my estimations of like, 45 opening, 180 total run. So hearing the confidence that you guys have and like outsider's perspective, I think is really, really good for me and my listeners. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've said this a bajillion times, but quick question. What is your...
My ranking? Oh, I love Big ask this question because like usually I'm the one asking. So I go 3, 1, 2, 4, 5, space, 6. And then TJ.
6 last.
6.
Distant last.
Awful. It's no.
What do you love about 3 so much?
Nev Campbell's performance and Sydney's emotional arc and like the backstory of her mother and like the fact that the trilogy comes full circle and like it's such a dense movie and you have like all adults and like there I understand like the comedy's there, but like also the adult drama is there, and I love that. So and Parker posted, right?
The best.
So, but yeah, Scream 6 is like the biggest conflict in my friendship with TJ is he is a stand for Scream 6, and every time I say something shady about Scream 6, he acts like I'm insulting him. But it's like, grow up, you're 40 years old,
Scream 6 was solid, dude.
Nah.
What are you talking about? The shotgun in the convenience store?
Oh my God, get over it, right? Spectacle.
Well, I too, a man who has not seen any of the sequels, agree that Scream 6 is the worst one, just to be on your side again.
Tony, I like Tony. He is really like, he's playing the field right now. He's working the room. I like it.
Yeah, he's really sucking up.
Yeah.
Spend another hour with Tony and things will change.
Got it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming. I got to run, but tell everybody where they can find you. Cheese?
You can find me at Aalcheh, Aalcheh, on the IG or the TikTok. You can find us at boxoffice.buds on just about everything. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Kellerman has a Substack for our show as well, Box Office Buds on Substack. Really awesome content there.
Awesome. Kellerman.
Great plug, Cheese. Great job. He's not used to doing
really
that.
good
That
job.
was like seeing your kid grow up and hit a baseball for the first time. That was fantastic.
Kellerman,
Covered on
want to
the
share where they can find you?
Of course, you can follow me personally at Kellerman Comedy with a K. No, sorry, it's at Kellerman Writes a Lot now.
Oh, God.
At Kellerman Writes a Lot, or you can watch at The Forkin News, the number 4 CKIN, The Forkin News.
And Tony, how about you?
I don't think any one of your listeners is going to want to follow me after the way I've conducted myself on this podcast, but just in case.
Where can they block you at?
Yeah, if they don't want to see me ever again, they can block Tony Squares on all platforms. But yes, the Box Office Buds is where we all are at arguing about movies every single week. So if you like all of us and not just one of us, feel free to follow us there.
Yeah, everybody, please go follow the Box Office Buds. Listen to their podcasts every week. Watch their reels. There's some really cool creative stuff going on there. So, and I am pretty sure that TJ likes you guys more than he likes me in terms of the effort he puts in. So it is what it is. All right, everybody, we are in the next segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers, covering all box office matters relating to Scream. So joining me, I have two of my favorite people to have the most fun with. I do need to welcome one of the producers of Scream with Ryan C. Showers, who is responsible for all of the graphics that people see on social media these days, TJ Jones. Hey, TJ.
Hey, Ryan. How are you, sir? Good to see you here on this lovely afternoon.
Well, I'm really happy you're here because, this is kind of like the TJ episode. I mean, I know you've had you've had a one-on-one with me. You've had, obviously, episode 150, the legendary 150, and other episodes too, but this is you have come to life.
I assume you're referencing the earlier segment featuring 3 of my lowly companions in the Box Office Buds.
Yes, but also, it's so funny to me because you have also gotten the keys to my kingdom in some respects. You've become a part of the podcast and part of to think that I'm sitting here with TJ as on my staff, but not Albert, is a wild thing. We miss Albert, by the way, but TJ, it's just so cool. You've over the past 2 months, you've come in and completely revolutionized the way that my show looks on social media. You kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone with doing different types of posts on social media, and then you have also your friends coming on this show, right, for their podcast that you're also a part of, and you kind of your thing is box office, and we're here talking about Scream box office. I mean, how much more TJ can you get, in the words of Gail Weathers, in the great Scream 4?
Yeah, I suppose when you add up all those variables, it is a distinctly T. Jones film episode. I mean, it's great to have started off as the dude you emailed and called Tom when I first joined the Patreon. Hi, Tom. Thought that was a strange jump you made from Thomas to Tom, but okay. To here we are. Now we're buddies with old Josh here, and the most consistent text thread I have in my life, strangely enough. And we have a great time, and we collaborate, and we love Scream, and here we are.
Listeners, I have inside information about TJ's text messages. The Straight Bros are in his top 3 pinned texts. I realized this after some private investigation last weekend, and this makes me very happy, and it warms my heart, because sometimes I think TJ doesn't even like me. So we love that TJ deep down has a soft spot for Ryan, or maybe I think that it's just Josh and I'm just along for the ride. But I just think that's a very cool fact.
Did I send you a screen grab or something and I accidentally showed my pinned text in there? How did you do this investigation?
I have my ways.
I got to remember to keep it PG, because last time we got a little carried away. We had to do some editing, some censoring. So I'll pretend like my aunt is listening to the pod, and I'll try and keep it PG.
All right. Well, TJ, I just want to say again, like, to your face, thank you for everything that you've done for Scream with Ryan C. Showers.
Happy to be a part of it.
All right. And now this was a long time to make him wait. Everybody, I am Miss Americana, and I need to introduce the Heartbreak Prince. Everybody, please welcome Josh Carr. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, TJ. What's going on?
Welcome to the show.
I appreciate the intro for the song that my daughter loves. It's one of the only ones I know really well.
Yeah. Well, Josh Carr is... So I actually reference Josh Carr a lot on the show. So this is him, everybody. Hello, welcome, handsome man from the South. We love him. So he is one of the most clever people. He makes me laugh in terms of the shit that he remembers. His mind is like a steel trap. Like for instance, I was raging about something, and I said I was kind of. I was, as TJ said, I was being sassy because, and I said something in a snap way to them on Saturday morning. And then by Saturday evening, I needed something from Josh, and Josh took what I said and turned it against me. I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, he doesn't miss a beat. Everybody, I love Josh Carr so much.
That's part of being in the Straight Bros right there. I don't know how they do it in the other worlds, but in the Straight Bros, you give it back. As much as you get it, you get it back. So it's always fun to be snappy, quippy.
Well, you know what else is funny about Josh? He knows me so well, he can predict where I'm going with shit. There was this funny thing. I was trying to be shocking and shock the Straight Bros, shock my friends, elsewhere. And randomly, there wasn't much movement in the group thread one day. And I just sent randomly, I think I'm in love, guys. I think I fell in love with somebody new. And everyone started freaking out like, Ryan, you're not with Brent anymore. What's going on? And Josh Carr, he's on it. He says, Ryan, we talked about this. I'm married. And I was like, God damn it, Josh, you stole my joke. You stole my punchline, because I was going to just send a selfie of Josh just to be funny, to scare everybody thinking, ooh, this is like some scandal. But it's actually just me making a joke about, how great of a guy Josh is. But God damn it, Josh, you stole my punchline.
I'm sorry. Look, you're not predictable. You're unpredictable, but there are certain things that we know where it's going. So.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. Before we go any further, I want to give TJ the opportunity for a rebuttal, because there was a lot of... So despite how TJ and I spoke to each other just now, this is where the nicest TJ and I have ever been to each other. I mean, since TJ became a part of the podcast, I have been on my best behavior with him. I used to roast this man. I used to instigate him on a daily basis. And since he started making my pictures, I have been as nice as I could be. Like, I've literally not pushed any buttons. So, but TJ, he got roasted in the last segment with me and the box office buds. So TJ, do you have anything you want to say or defend yourself?
Well, I think Josh would agree that when you and I used to go at it, I was definitely the more ruthless instigator of the two of us. But we certainly have had to get a little more kumbaya, as we have a working relationship that we have to also factor into the equation. Excuse me. I heard what the box office buds had to say, and season 1 of our fantasy league was a tough one. I did have the first overall pick, and I did take Joker Folie à Deux with the number 1 overall pick. And there's just no running away from that being something you're going to hear about for the rest of your life. I thought the first one made $1 billion. You add Lady Gaga, add some music. I was like, this at the time of that draft, like some comic book movies weren't quite hitting at the box office, the Marvels, a couple other things. It wasn't necessarily guaranteed. So I figured this kind of outside of the box superhero movie would be a big hit. boy, was I wrong. So I'll take it. I'll take it on the chin for drafting that movie. But those guys, in their heart of hearts, you know, you get a couple Boston Yinglings and those fellas, they'll tell you when we have conversations about, you know, the real with the box office and the numbers and the bets that we make in the league, I am superior to all of them on a regular basis about how much I can predict in this league. It was a tough draft for me, but we're going to bounce back this year. You know, I think shit talking is a sign of affection. So I'll just, you know, feel like those guys really care about me by hearing all that stuff come out my way.
Okay, so Scream 7. Let's talk Scream 7. I am sitting here with these two gents. They were on the episode whenever, like the week that we got to talk about the fact that Neve Campbell and Kevin Williamson were coming back to the franchise back in, you know, March of 24. Such a cool thing. It's like definitely, it's a legendary episode. I get compliments on it all the time, still to this day. And there's something in that episode. There's a magic, there's a spark, and I love that. And I love that you guys got to be with me for that moment. But we're gonna look forward now to the box office for Scream 7 and kind of predict, because I did this with the box office buds, but they came at it from like in a more like detached point of view. Like, we are Scream fans, the three of us sitting here. They are not necessarily to the same level as we are, right? So I got their perspective. I want to hear your perspective. So TJ, marvelously gave me the over/under number in the middle of the podcast. Like, I was like, what if my phone was on airplane mode or, you know, do not disturb, and he's sending me the over/under number that I'm supposed to use with them. I'm like, I can't work like this. But I
planned it perfectly. It allowed you to see it in the moment, not be able to think about it. It was perfectly executed.
Okay, fair enough. We like a rebuttal, but I still think I'm right. So I'm just teasing. It was actually fine. I was a bit out of shape. But TJ makes for good comedy. He's a great punching bag for both me and the buds. So the over and under number was 50 million for the opening weekend domestic box office. I want to start with Josh first. What do you predict for Scream 7's domestic opening?
I think it's going to go over. I'm not saying way over, but I'm thinking, 55 million, maybe 60. I don't know. I'd say 55.
Wow.
You don't agree? You think under?
No, I want you to. I mean, I did say under in the episode, but
I got you.
What I want to hear your thoughts. But I'm also I'm an anxious, nervous person about this. I'm very emotionally invested in this. But go on, Josh. I want to hear your reasoning.
Well, as an avid listener of not only the Scream with RCS podcast, but of the box office buzz, I've always wanted to be a part of this. So this feels nice. No, I think it's going to go over, and I think what was Scream 6? What was its domestic opening? Was it like 45? 44?
Yeah, 44.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so obviously we're probably going to lose a couple of those people, but I think one of the magic of having Kevin Williamson back, the curiosity of how is he going to do as a director, but you're bringing, I guess the soul now is back with Kevin. You got Neve and you got Courtney Cox. Dewey's coming back. I think a lot of people are going to want to see how what's going on. How is Dewey coming back? Obviously, Scott Foley and Matthew Lillard. And maybe they have a couple other surprises that we don't know about. I know it's hard to do that these days, but I think there's a lot of, people that are just kind of curious. One, you got the people that loved the franchise from back in the day. You got the people that are just coming into it now. I know a lot of the Gen Z is now finding these old slashers, and they're talking, wanting to go back and watch these nice movies. You got the peak of the interest of, I know she did Last Summer's coming out, so I know. Maybe it's a little behind the writer strike, all the stuff that happened with. So maybe that might hinder it a little bit. But I think it's going to do well. I'm excited for it. I really do think it's going to do at least 55.
I love this. And to be honest, whenever the box office buds started talking and they said this, that they all went over. I mean, I think no, but they were all like pretty higher than me. I was the lowest. I don't know if this is me just being so cautious because, just everything that's happened, and also just being afraid. Like, I'm always naturally afraid it won't do well. But this time it's different. This time it's Sidney Prescott. This time it's her. This is the H2O of Scream. This is something that I desperately want to be successful. I will talk more, but I want to hear TJ's first. TJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that number, I take a lot of pride in picking those over-unders. The last couple of weeks, I have been fucking dead on bullseye with my estimation. So a lot goes into it. I won't get into the process, bore you guys with all the details. But one of the key figures I did look at for picking that number was Halloween 2018. Because I feel like there is going to be a similar buzz of reinvention, but also returning back to its roots in the same way that Halloween had sequels between the original and 2018, and the same way we have had, 4, 5, and 6 between the original trilogy, but this is going to feel like a return to the original trilogy and a bit of a standalone from coming off 4 and 5. And that first weekend, 76 million for Halloween 2018. It was a big deal at the time. I remember it. And even the sequel, Kills, which I think was day and date Peacock, made 49 million. So I just feel like that 50 million is right in reach, and I think that they're going to be really savvy about the marketing. Obviously stuff was announced for 5 and 6 in terms of like some cast and things like that, but 7 has been like in the trades and in the gossip stuff, blah 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 blah, for like it'll be years by the time it actually comes out. I think the awareness of this project has gotten so prominent that it'll even get outside a bit of the kind of like, elitist coastal, media people. I think at large, the pop culture country awareness has reached a peak that has even gone past just like, the people who are really into this. So I think you match that with all the kind of same 2018 vibes, and you put it together with like what you guys said with Kevin coming back and Nev, and Courtney's gonna be really big promoting it. They're really savvy with their social media presence, and I feel like they're gonna fucking just like put the pedal to the metal to make this thing a hit. And I think I would say it goes over 60 million, but I did not feel comfortable putting that as the over under. I didn't think that was good. So between us, I'll bet if y'all want to 60, but again, I think over 50 for sure.
I think it's going to be more than Scream 6. I think I'm pretty, even with everything that's happened with the film's origins, I think that the movie I think it's going to be the highest grossing film of the franchise. If not, it will be right under 6, whether for opening and overall. But here's the thing, and like you hit on something very interesting, which is Halloween 2018. And a lot of people associated that Scream's version of Halloween 2018 was Scream 5. And I say, And like, so basically, how some people have interpreted the numbers to be is like Scream 5 equals Halloween 2018 and Scream 6 equals, oh my God, Jenna Ortega, which is not true. Kind of, sort of, but not really. So I think Scream 6 just was, all of the hype and how, I can't emphasize it enough, how much all the money Spyglass put into, and Paramount, they put into reviving Scream as an IP, as a brand with Scream 5. It paid off with Scream 6. Like all those seeds were laid during the pandemic when Scream 5 came out so that Scream 6 could go on to be the successful thing that it was. And I think so you have that groundwork already laid out. But here's the thing that TJ said that I really agree with. And something that Josh said. So it's a combination of the two of you. But neither of you hit exactly where I'm going with this. I have heard from people in real life I live in the forest here in Pennsylvania. People have said to me in real life, I heard Matthew Lillard is coming back for Scream 7. I think that is so cool. And the way that, like, the fact that you have that Matthew Lillard is being so heavily marketed as coming back to Scream with this, and Nev Campbell. You can't discount Nev Campbell's triumph to say, oh yes, I was a victor here. I got my fair pay. I'm respected at my job. You have that comeback, but then you also have Matthew Lillard, and there's this renewed sense of Scream 1996 in the way that Halloween 2018 had a renewed sense of 1978. Like, oh, we're going back to Jamie Lee Curtis, and look, she has long hair like she did in that movie. We see her as an older woman now. This is cool. I think all of those things combined, plus this idea of Sydney's daughter, I think that is going to be an easy thing for people in the general public to grasp and understand. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts? We'll start with Josh.
Well, what I was going to say is when my wife's not a big Scream person, but she goes for me. And when we left Scream 5, she said, her words were, I'd like to see how Sydney is as a mother. I'd like to see how Sydney has with we saw that in Scream 5, but with an older kid. And so we didn't necessarily know that was going to happen at the time, but that's somebody that's not a Scream viewer, somebody that watches the movies. We watch the movies. We've thought about that kind of thing before. This is somebody who doesn't really even watch it. So the fact that that's not even an avid viewer, and she's like, I'd like to see that. Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to say was Scream 5 was at that time Halloween 2018. But now, since we've had the shift back to Nev and back to the original, the feel to it, now 100%, it feels way more like the Halloween 2018, where you're going back to Nev, you're going back to Jamie Lee, the family aspects. Yeah, no, you're 100% right there.
TJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like the perfect storm of things coming together. It's so crazy how we got here, based on what the original laid plans were and how it all ended up in this position. But I also think that the gap between 6 and 7 will be a healthy thing for the franchise as well. Give a little space, a little distance, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for I Know He Did Last Summer being a big hit. I think that is kind of sliding right into that same nostalgia, mix in the old with the new, hot young cast with the people we love. And I think if that is a hit, that'll be a good indicator too of the momentum building towards 7 in the spring. And like you always mention, horror is, you can put out like some mediocre horror and does pretty good numbers these days. So let alone from like one of those iconic franchises with all the original creators back and all the cast back, like get the fuck out of here. This movie is going to make a lot of money and I just can't wait. So here's something interesting. I never watched a trailer for Scream 6. I never watched anything for Scream 6 promotional wise. I couldn't help but like a couple times I was in the theater and I saw a bit of like the subway sequence and things like that, but I wanted to have like as little, visual understanding comprehension of what I was going to see. So I like blacked out. And so now I'm picturing myself in a theater, and God willing, I haven't seen it online. And like whatever that opening shot is of the trailer, probably a phone ringing, right? Like just the fucking adrenaline surge that's going to be when you see that trailer for the first time and you're in a crowded, theater with people and you hear that phone ring and Sydney picks it up or however they do it. Like I'm worried that even if I planned on not watching the promotional material, I can't help myself. I'm just going to have to dial in and just soak it all in because I cannot wait for the first teaser to come out. I think they're really going to put something fun together to get everybody excited and it's just going to be a runaway train until it's released next year.
So as my good friend Taylor Swift once said, it's been a long time coming. Okay, I'm sorry, TJ, I'm sorry. So moving on, Josh, I think we just realized we've come to the bottom of why TJ likes Scream 6 so much because he didn't watch the trailers. So that now it all makes sense. It all makes sense why TJ has a chub for Scream 6 while the rest of us see it's kind of a mess. I'm just
Look,
teasing.
Jokes aside, I never saw The Shrine. The Shrine was in a lot of the early marketing material, right? So I'm watching the movie for the first time and they get to The Shrine. I'm like, whoa, holy shit. I mean, when that I think memory serves, like the curtain comes up and you see all, like that was a fucking really cool image to see for the first time while you're watching the movie and to not have had that visual spoiled by the trailer. And that's just one thing. But I mean, I encourage everyone out there at some point when there's a movie that you really care about, just take it as an experiment, as an exercise, and do not watch anything about it before you go see it. I know it's hard to do, but man, does it change the experience to go in as blind as you can be. So yeah, it can be cool.
Well, I made a pact, so I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I have been spoiled for every Scream movie that I've seen in theaters. Scream 4, Scream 5, Scream 6. I knew every beat by beat plot detail, from leakers, from other people who've seen it, whatever. I know enough right now that I'm satisfied. I don't want to know anymore. And I want to try to go in unspoiled for the first time. I feel like if I'm ever going to be unspoiled, I think this is the movie that I want it to be for, the movie that returns to Sydney. I'm really going to, anytime this information is offered to me, I'm going to deny it, reject it, and just try to go in not spoiled because I really want to live what the movie is giving me. So I've earned it. I've taken a lot of arrows for this movie. So, okay, let's move on now to I have this question for you guys because you guys are both old, which is fine. But, so I talked about the box office numbers historically with the buds about Scream 1 through 6. So here's the question I have for you guys. People who were there when it actually went down in the 90s or shortly after, right? Because you're old. But we love old men. We love hot, handsome men such as yourselves who were alive then. What do we think? Do we think Scream is more popular today or do we think Scream was more popular back then? Do the financial numbers indicate anything or would you base this more off of a vibe in terms of like, do you think Scream is more popular today than it was back then? So, Josh, what are your thoughts?
I mean, in the latter part of the 90s, I mean, it was like pop culture. It was a cultural impact. I mean, obviously it changed the way I looked at horror, and most people did. I mean, horror was it was coming out of the 80s, the early 90s were dead. So, I mean, it was huge. I mean, everywhere you went, Halloween, I was Ghostface for probably 6 or 7 Halloweens in a row. You saw it everywhere. Everybody knew the voice. It was a big deal. As far as financials go, I mean, if you've got diehards that are still like us, that are still there from the 90s, then it's only gotten bigger since then. You've gotten, more of a fan base. So I would say it's probably more popular now just because there's more eyes on it. But I mean, I don't think it's caught like I said, the zeitgeist, the cultural impact it had I don't think it's at that level there. But as far as fans, I think more people are, like I said, more eyes on it. I think there's more people watching it. And a lot. I mean, I know we've had trouble with people going to the theater here lately, but I mean, the fact that you got that amount of money for well, I know horror's big, but I mean, you got that amount of money going to see that movie 5 and 6. I'm saying. Um, I think that has a lot to do with the people that were there in the beginning and then the new people that are coming out. Horror's big now, like you said. So it's hard to say what's more popular. I don't think we're at how crazy it was back in the 90s, but I do think there probably is a wider fan base now.
I think that, and this may be crazy to say, but I think Ghostface is more popular now, but I would say that the movies were more intertwined with pop culture back then. So TJ, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty accurate. Like Josh, pointed out, the climate of movie going is just different these days. I mean, this is an obvious statement, but we didn't have cell phones in the mid to late 90s. And just think about how much time you spend getting entertained by your phone. And you just did not have that piece of technology in life. So when something like Scream came along and it was an opportunity to get out of the house and go do something and be entertained and go with your friends, like those kind of things just meant more back then. And so that kind of, I don't think you can quite replicate that zeitgeisty, like, oh my God, we have to go see this, because I just don't think people view, I think our generation, and by the way, we're still in our 30s, motherfucker talking about old, but our generation, I still think feels like that way. And some younger fans still kind of, have inherited the mantle of that passionate cinephile. But I think for the average younger audience member, they're not quite as enthused to see it opening weekend. And I was house sitting last October at a neighborhood that's way fancier than I had any right to be in. And they had this, their neighborhood kind of turns into this like massive Halloween festival where like all these kids come in from different neighborhoods to go to this neighborhood. I saw so many kids in Ghostface costumes. Like, so many. I honestly would say over the course of the night, I saw like 7 to 10 different kids as part of different families. And like, I didn't see, like, I promise you, I didn't see 5 Iron Mans or, 5 Captain Americas, but I saw like 7 to 10 Ghostface. So I do think, to your point, Ghostface is, an absolutely iconic image.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to match that moment when, around the time, like everything was getting spoofed in terms of the scary movie of it all. And then in commercials and SNL, like, it was just everywhere. And it's not quite the same way because it's just there's so much other media in the world that like it doesn't stand out quite as much. But certainly the legacy of Ghostface in the movies, I think, inarguably casts a wider net now. And hopefully that awareness, when kind of paired with the nostalgia factor of what they're doing with the new movie, it'll all kind of come together in a really fun way.
Jess said this today on the recording today. She said that Ghostface in New York, Scream 6 was a gimmick movie. And it would be successful because the idea of Ghostface running around in New York on the subway, that is such a thing that people flock to see because it's so cool and inventive. I think honestly, I think that was the biggest, I think the IP had a lot to do with it, like bringing the IP back into like the modern era. I think Jenna Ortega, small part of it. I think Ghostface in New York, the gimmick of that is what sold that movie. I think Ghostface sold Scream 6. And I'll be walking around, Key West, carrying around, Key West cream pies, and I see people on the street and they have Ghostface shirts on. Like one night I saw literally 5 different people on the street wearing Ghostface shirts. And I'm trying to keep myself together and not run up to them and say, oh my God, are you a Scream fan? Because like, that's crazy, right? I'll get punched in the face. But there are sometimes people approach me whenever I have Scream stuff on and they say, oh, I like your shirt. And I say, oh, do you like this? Do you like the films? What films? Like, so people associate Ghostface as his own entity. I see tattoos all the time on random people out in public. I see Ghostface a lot out there. And I think that that is also why Scream 7 is going to be a huge, huge hit. So it's funny to me how Ghostface has kind of gone on to be this pop culture icon. Whereas back in the 90s, I think it was more about the films and the story and the mythology and the stars in a way. Like think about Scream 2, that cast, like SMG, think about Scream 3 and like the story of that, of the Maureen Prescott coming back. Like that's where the David and Courtney celebrity couple of it all. That was Scream in the 90s. And today I feel like it's Ghostface as an icon and everything around him is just, more or less. So any last word? We'll have a last word and then we'll move on to our box office draft. TJ, you look like you're ready to say something.
Yeah, I just want to give to my homies over in the radio silence camp that I know catch a lot of heat on this podcast. I just want to give them a shout out because I'll be damned, I don't think Ghostface ever looked more fucking badass than he did in 5 and 6. I mean, holy shit, that image of Ghostface. I remember that image. I did watch the trailers for 5. That beat where he's like standing up in the opening with Jenna, like she's like kicked him on the ground and he's standing up over her. Like there's not a whole lot of complex things going on in that shot, but that just the composition, the framing, like he never looked more menacing up until that point in that shot in 5. And like whether you like it or not, Ghostface with the shotgun is an iconic image. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of like the shotgun stuff, but it looks fucking super cool. And then Josh always says whenever I'm trying to SSD to get some love for Scream 6, he's like, yeah, well, it is the most badass Ghostface has ever been. He's the scariest Ghostface. So that's the one thing he'll give me in that regard. And so in terms of the iconography of Ghostface, shout out to Radio Silence for making Ghostface look scary and fucking cool as shit in the last 2 movies.
Listener, please be vigilant and ignore TJ's propaganda of Scream 6 here. I'm teasing. No, so I agree. Especially like the aged Billy Loomis mask, phenomenal in Scream 6. Like, and I think almost like they took inspiration from the aged Michael Myers masks that we saw in Halloween 2018, Kills. I think that's where we got a lot of that. The inspiration for the Ghostface mask in Scream 6, and I love it. I really do. In fact, that's the mask I have on my Ghostface mannequin in my office. So, Josh, please weigh in.
Yeah, like what TJ said. Yeah, I mean that's a perfect portrayal of Ghostface and his opinion and mine as well.
Let's move on now because we have something that we wanted to hit in episode 200 and we didn't get to, which is our box office draft. I want Josh to explain what this draft is because Josh is, the most heterosexual man that I know, and I consider box drafting in general to be a very straight thing. Like me as a gay person, I don't understand the art of drafting. It's like trying to walk when your legs are asleep. So Josh, what did we do here with this box office draft?
So this was TJ's TJ's idea. TJ went with this idea. I play fantasy football, so I'm used to doing the drafts where you draft the players onto your team, and then that's your team. You got players from different teams, and they score points and what have you. So TJ decided, brilliant, to take it a step further, and he did it with box office. Everybody loves movies. Everybody likes to predict what the box office is going to be. Obviously, box office buzz, and we did it here. So TJ decided, I don't know how long ago he decided to do it and how long he's been doing it, but the brilliant idea to draft movies throughout the year and whatever that movie makes in the calendar year 2025, and that's what that movie makes worldwide, and that goes to your accumulated money for your teams. Whoever's got the most money at the end of the year, the end of the calendar year 2025 is the winner. So that was TJ's brilliant idea, and what an amazing fun thing it's been so far.
I would marry Josh Carr with paper rings, but man, I almost blocked him when we did our box office draft, and you'll hear why in a few minutes. So TJ, go ahead and explain the draft anymore that you went to, and then explain what movies we picked, just so people can have like a concept going forward.
Real quick, what is this paper rings? Is that some Taylor Swift bullshit too?
No, of course not. What are you talking about? But I'm just saying.
What does that mean?
It means that Josh Carr is like, I don't need a diamond to marry him. I could just do it with paper rings. So I mean, like that's how much I like him. That's how great he is. So yeah. But
okay.
Yeah, it's all good, TJ. Not everything is a conspiracy about Taylor Swift, but as she would say, but what if it is? So okay.
I deserve that. Okay, so yes, it's super fun. It's super simple. We are in the process of trying to figure out a digital way that we can have people play in 2026 so that folks who like the pod and like the idea can easily engage with it. But even in the meantime, it's super easy to do. You could just do like a second half of the year with your friends. If you like that idea, just look at the calendar. Everyone pick some squads, and then you just keep up with the box office. It's really easy. There's no like subbing in and out like regular fantasy and stuff like that. Every once in a while, a movie gets pushed. That's where it gets a little complicated. But regardless of that, I think it's really cool too that we did this before the Box Office Buds was even a podcast, and now that's kind of popping off. Like we had this going because I thought it'd be fun as well. So here we go. I'm going to list off our teams in no particular order in terms of when we drafted them or anything. We did a snake draft for those who know what that is. So there was an order to this, but just for the sake of clarity, these are just our squads. All right. And I'm going to end with the pick that'll segue into Ryan's anger. First of all, real quickly, I'll say we have a Metacritic aside from all the cumulative box office, we also have one round where we each pick a movie that we get a $500 bonus. Whoever's movie in the Metacritic category has the best Metacritic score. So to start off my list of movies, Sinners, the best reviewed movie of the year, baby, with an 84. But then in the horror category, I have I Know You Did Last Summer. Then I have Ballerina, Mission Impossible, Thunderbolts, Superman, and Fantastic Four. That is my team. Ryan C. Showers' team, for his Metacritic category, he has the PTA movie. Then he's got Megan 2.0. He's got The Conjuring. He's got Elio. He's got Lilo and Stitch. That one's going to be a banger. How to Train Your Dragon live action. And then Avatar. Keep in mind, he only gets the box office of Avatar in 2025, and that movie comes out mid to late December. So he only gets about 2 weeks of Avatar before it cuts off.
Which I didn't know when I mean, I guess I was that was in the rules, but I guess I missed that in the rules. I just scrolled past it, and man, was I fucking pissed when I learned that I only get 2 weeks of Avatar. Fuck that shit. I thought James Cameron would have my back here. Okay, TJ, go on.
Yeah, well, and just really quickly, the point of that is it has to end the calendar date. Otherwise, the season doesn't end at the end of the year, and you're watching numbers trickle into the next calendar year, which all of a sudden becomes like not quite as a clear cut. And it's a gamble. I mean, every league that I've been a part of, someone drafts Avatar because it's gonna make several $100 million in just 2 weeks. Okay, here we are. And this will kick right back to you, Ryan. This is Josh's squad with his Metacritic, a curious pick with The Karate Kid. For his horror movie, he's got 28 Years Later. He's got Paddington in Peru, which made a bunch of money. He's got Captain America, which didn't do too hot. He's got Jurassic World. That's going to be a banger. He's got Zootopia 2. That will also make a ton of movie money. Can't talk. I'm so excited to hear Ryan. And his number one pick, Gravity. Wicked 2, baby. Josh Carr with Wicked 2. Woo!
Josh, tell everybody how you sacrificed our friendship to win the box office draft.
Well, I had the first overall pick. So obviously you want to go for a movie that's going to make a bunch of money, and seeing what Wicked did this year, I figured, hey, I think that comes out, is it mid-November, Jay? I don't know if you have that right there. You know, it's got about a month and a half, maybe a little less, and I figured it was probably going to do most of its stuff within the first month. I said, I remember saying, oh God, Ryan's going to hate me. I said that, and Ryan goes, don't you dare. So I picked Wicked first. So yes, I sacrificed friendship in order to win. And just real quick, Ryan, do your thing about Wicked before I go back to this Metacritic stuff.
So you know what, like this is, I know I talk about Taylor Swift too much, but she is she's all about karma. And I have to say, karma, I feel like, bit Josh Carr in the ass here okay, and you have to also remember, we did these picks like at the end of December, beginning of January, like AKA peak time that I was obsessed with Wicked. Me and my theater kid roots, the person, Wicked means so much to me. I saw Wicked on Thursday night when that came out, and I texted the Straight Bros, and I told them that I sobbed the entire 2 hours and 33 minutes. And they were like, why? And then Josh Carr has the audacity to steal Wicked Part 2 from me. How dare you, Josh? But you know what? As Taylor Swift said, I keep my side of the street clean, and you have had flops with Captain America and your Karate Kid. So, you know what? Sucks to suck. Josh?
Well, Karate Kid hasn't come out yet. We don't know if that's going to do bad. It's just fun to talk about because I don't know if it's going to do.
Is it going to be nominated for Best
Picture?
Picture? Like yours and mine? No, it's not. So he's not going to get that one. So sucks to suck, Josh. Josh.
So,
tell everybody
that's
how you
fine.
picked.
Hey, look, it's fine. I still have Wicked, and I'll get its money, and you won't. So that's all that really matters there. But the Metacritic, being that I was a rookie coming into this, I did not understand the Metacritic part of it until I was just trying to, pick movies that are going to make money. And then after, when I realized what the Metacritic was, TJ, actually it was the last time we recorded, and TJ said, a curious pick. And I remember going, wait, why is that a curious pick? And then he mentioned it to me. I was like, son of a bitch, I did not know that. Here's to hoping, Karate Kid is going to be, 100, but It's got to beat, I think, 84 right now. Is that what Sinners is sitting at 84?
Yeah.
On Metacritic.
Well,
So here's for
yes.
that.
And
So
just for the record, these dudes both messed up in the draft with rules that were clearly sent out explaining all of this before the draft. And they didn't read
No,
it, and now they blame me for the rules. You know, it is what it is.
I was
they're
going to
stupid
get donuts
rules.
for my child on a Sunday morning and doing this while I was driving. Yes, I was texting at a red light. Don't get crazy. But that was where that's when I picked Karate Kid. So that's on me. I accept it.
Well, you know what? I was also forced to do this, and I'm happy that I did. Because like sometimes whenever I'm not used to something, I can be a sourpuss and I can be a grump. I had those attributes when we did the draft. Next year, I promise, if we're still friends, which we will be, because I'm handcuffed to you now, TJ, and Josh is he's just the best. So I assume we'll be doing this again and again and again forever. But so next year I will be much more competitive. But I actually think that my picks were overall good. I mean, it sucks that I only get Avatar. So imagine this, people. Imagine getting Wicked stolen from you and then picking Avatar thinking that you're cool as shit and then realizing you only get 2 weeks of Avatar. I mean, Avatar will still do pretty well, but I think that I'm going to win this. I think that I made really savvy picks, whereas TJ went for the nostalgia. Oh, I love Jennifer Love Hewitt, so I'm going to pick, I know she did this, I'm going to be cute. Whereas I picked Megan knowing that she's going to get some bank. So, I don't know. So, gents, who do you think wins the box office draft? I think RCS, but, what do we think? Josh?
Well, I mean, I think the only correct answer is to say yourself. I mean, everybody wants to sell their own thing. Honestly, I think it could go either way. Ryan, you have a bunch of the kid movies, and then TJ obviously had the Metacritic success of Sinners. And then Thunderbolts this past week, it had good opening and it's getting good reviews, so good word of mouth. They're saying it's the best Marvel movie since, I don't know when the last good one was. And then not only that, but it's setting up Fantastic Four, which is TJ's. So, and then Superman, TJ's got Superman. So TJ's got a good summer blockbuster lineup. So yeah, I think it can go either way. Right now, I want to say me. I'm leaning TJ. I'm the only one that's got money accumulated right now. So I'm in the lead, but I guess TJ's got Thunderbolts now. We'll see. Ryan has no money right now. Ryan's broke.
Ryan plays the long game, and he always wins. He comes to slay. Okay, so TJ, I will say I did underestimate you. The fact the 1-2 punch of Sinners and Thunderbolts both happening within the past 2 weeks has made me realize, oh, maybe he is better at this than I gave him credit for. I actually consider you a threat. So I mean, honestly, it could go anyway. But TJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, looking at your squad, Ryan, your wild card, I'll tell you right now what your wild card is. It's Elio.
Really? Okay.
That's going to make or break your whole season, so to speak, because Pixar had been hit or miss for a while. And then last year, what's the one about feelings that came? Inside Out 2 became one of the top 10 grossing movies of all time and made like $1.7 billion, right? So it set the world of Pixar back on fire. If that, I don't obviously think Elio does not have the brand recognition of that franchise, but if it has a really healthy Pixar number, I think Lilo and Stitch is going to be massive for you. I think that is going to be your biggest movie for sure. And How to Train Your Dragon looks really good. I think that I've seen that trailer in theaters a couple times. It looks super fun. I think the only chance you really have is Elio getting close to like $600-700 million and being like a pretty massive Pixar hit. I feel like if you don't get that, I just don't think between Fantastic Four, Superman, and Mission Impossible, those are going to be some bangers right there. And to Josh's credit, too, there's not been a Jurassic World movie of the last 3 that hasn't made $1 billion. I have Jurassic World in my other league with the Box Office Buds. That was my heavy favorite that I went after. I spent the most money in the auction draft to get. So that's a great pick. And Zootopia 2, man, that franchise has a super long tail. People love Zootopia. And also, as you just said, Wicked, that the buzz is real from that movie coming off of last year. So I wouldn't count Josh out either. I think we all got a puncher's chance, which is really fun.
I'm gonna lose. I just realized listening to you talk, so I'm sad now because I don't like to lose. But you know what? It's okay. I'm a winner in the eyes of Scream 7, and I'm a winner because I convincingly lied to you about Paper Rings. Yes, it's a Taylor Swift song. So, okay. On that note, everybody, we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you guys so much. This was such a fun recording. I love my straight bros, and I love our little friendship group. Even if the dynamics have changed, I feel like it's very much less confrontational, in a fun way. It's I don't know. So I don't know. I'd like to end on that kind of note because like TJ and I used to really go at it in terms of like back and forth, punch after punch. Because I like to throw shade and TJ likes to pick on me, So Josh, like if I'm like an objective point of view, how do you think our friendship has changed or our dynamic has changed since TJ became an employee of the podcast?
The trust. So, I mean, if you tell TJ a topic that you're going to want to talk about, a few weeks in advance, and then TJ disappears into his lair and comes back out with these just amazing, creative graphics. And, not to shit on what the title cards used to be, but I mean, you put out something and say Scream with RCS and black title card. Now you got something where TJ puts it out, and so people see this before maybe they even listen to it, and it's already grabbing them and pulling them into the episode. So TJ, your graphics are great, man. Honestly, I mean, I've even like in my fantasy draft, I've told TJ, hey TJ, I want to learn what you're doing because I want to kind of do these things with the people in my league. So it's very impressive. And then Ryan, kudos to you for putting trust of your namesake podcast into TJ, and really just trusting him to do the work.
What was I thinking? What was I thinking by giving
Well,
TJ all
look,
this trust?
You took a chance, man, and look, you trust. You already obviously had a friendship with the guy, so I mean, TJ was showing some of the good work he was doing, just even doing our little Straight Bros thing that we have in our I don't even know what it's called, but what they show in our chat. But I mean, he helped to revolutionize the podcast. And look, it's hard to even say all that without mentioning, Ashley. I mean, with all the stuff that she's done to help with the podcast, as far as the Taylor Swift songs, the games, the extra episode, the news, the audio commentary.
Yeah.
Honestly, applause to all three of y'all. Y'all are doing a great job.
It is what it is. Thanks, Josh. I wasn't expecting you to be so complimentary of everything. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. This podcast is my baby, and I love that it's connected me to people like you guys, who I would have never have met or had a friendship like this if it weren't for the podcast. So thank you guys. So Josh, any final words, and where can they find you online?
Mr. Ja, I think is what it is. ARCar84 on Instagram. You all mean a lot to me. Y'all are good guys. So I'm glad we're friends. Glad to help out and contribute in the podcast any way that I can.
Well, you also contribute in just like Josh Carr. He holds my hand anytime I'm having any kind of issue. I talk to Josh and he gets me through. So we love Josh. So thanks,
pleasure.
Josh. All right, TJ, any final thoughts?
Yeah, don't be coming to me if you're having a hard time. I ain't got nothing for you. So
I
I'm
know.
glad Josh is around. Big, good call, Josh. Shout out to Ashley. I think her and I have started to become, friendly in communication recently. But I remember, and this is God honest truth, I told Ryan that I was a fan of Ashley before we started communicating, but before she ever take a role in the podcast. I remember listening to an episode she was on, and I was like, yeah, she was really great. She had some super fun ideas. I think she had the Dewey ice cream bit, right? But didn't she have the, yeah. She had that great bit about what she thought Dewey should have been doing, and as opposed to what he was doing in 5, which I thought was just super fun and sweet. And I think I definitely followed her shop before this stuff anyway, so shout out to Ashley. Excited about what we got going on. This whole social media thing is really fun to play around with. The Box Office Buds has shown me a lot of cool, fun ways to do it. I would highly encourage y'all to go check out our stuff over there too. Those guys, all three super talented creators and performers. And yeah, I'm just kind of learning from them on content stuff and taking what I've learned and trying to infuse it into the Ryan C. Showers experience so that we can he already has done a great job of building a foundation and a fan base and has a lot of followers and stuff, but we're just trying to even make it even better with fun stuff. And we have some really cool ideas cooking up, and it's a great creative outlet to play around with. And I love messing around with Scream images. There's to me, I explain it to my wife when she sees me messing around making graphics, and it's some people do Sudoku or crosswords or whatever. To me, my brain is figuring out a graphic. It's trying to just kind of try stuff, fail, and put it all together. So it's also not only a pleasure to collaborate with friends, but personally, it's been really fun to kind of just get in there and sharpen that sword, so to speak. So,
well, can I just say, I'm always happy to receive from TJ. So we love that. All right, TJ, where can they find you online?
Yeah, I mean, my primary social is Instagram, and it's at Jones Hip Hop, all one word. And then, yeah, the Box Office Bud stuff, boxoffice.buds. When we put out this episode, we're going to do some collaboration posts. So we'll make sure that'll be a really easy way to find the buds once we do some collaborations on the content coming out for this episode with the buds. And also, I just want to shout out real quick, too. I am going to put together a snazzy graphic that shows our fantasy teams. So everyone's going to get a chance to see our whole squads that we just talked about and chime in. We all said who we thought was going to win. I want to know from the audience who they think has the best team. So keep an eye out for that graphic and that prompt to give us your answer from the fan base on who has the best fantasy squad.
See, even if all the listeners pick me, TJ, you're going to reject it, because I think like sometimes the loyalty people have to me stuns you. And in particular, like when it comes to Scream 6, you always think like, I'm going to get RCS, and then like everybody just knocks you down. But it's okay.
I mean, that's the only reason I'm doing your graphics, is like a slow coup where eventually Scream 6 becomes the face of this entire podcast.
I knew it. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for this wonderful recording. Big thruple group hug here. So, all right, I'll see you guys later. Hey, Ash.
Hello, Ryan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
This was funny because like it's like, so the theme of this week's episode, right, is box office and Scream box office, and it's like, what do you do for that, you know? And it dawned on me that we have a song where the word gold is in the title, and it just happens to be from one of my rotating top 3 favorite albums, which is Evermore. So Ashley, please tell us, what is the Taylor Swift song of the day?
The Taylor Swift song of the day is Gold Rush. This is off Evermore, which came out in 2020. It's track 3. This song was written and produced by Taylor Swift and Jack Antonoff. This is like one of the songs that I had like the hardest time interpreting at first. But from what I gather and what I did a little bit more deep dive with the internet to see what the internet thinks, to me, it sounds like people and myself are speculating that this is about Taylor romanticizing or daydreaming about somebody and realizing that they'd be more problems than they're worth, and realizing that like the fantasy probably isn't there. Like she's picturing all these like little things that you would do in a relationship, and then later she's like, wait, hold up, I don't like all of this. And I kind of like the idea of a gold rush, because with the gold rush there was so many people who won big, but there were so many people who completely lost. And I like the idea of like, there's like fool's gold, like in the gold rush, and there's all of these elements. I feel like it's just the song. It's not one that I gravitate towards, but every time I listen to it, I think, why don't I listen to this song more?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I have to agree with you. Like, I don't typically, like, this isn't a song that I would say, oh my gosh, one of my favorites of all time. But it's fun because this one comes directly after Champagne Problems, which we just did last week for the Taylor Swift song of the day on Friday, which is one of my top 10 favorite songs. So I've heard the song a lot, and there's something dreamy about this song, which is like what you said, the daydream aspect. But, you know, ironically, you know, the reason why I've looked at this song more carefully recently and why I like it more now than I used to whenever I first became a Swiftie is Jack Antonoff saying that this is his favorite song on Evermore, which is crazy. So what do you think of that pick for Jack?
I think it's super fun, and I didn't know that. And I was actually watching these girls who have an amazing channel where that's like pretty much all dedicated to Taylor Swift. They're called Chats and React. Shout out to them. Jack had said it's his favorite track on the new album. So they just like, as like a joke, got tattoos thinking like maybe this will be, and like the one like loves it and the other's like, I like it, but I don't regret my tattoo either. But I'm just like, it wouldn't be like the song that like I would imagine. But then when I listen to Jack Antonoff's like his band, like the Bleachers, like I understand how like I feel like this could be like a little bit more like his personal vibe.
Well, you know, the song is very high concept, and I think like the difference like between like the first 30 seconds where it's like gleaming twink, like, you know, to like the actual chorus and the bridge, there is a huge difference. It plays with structure in a cool way. But, you know, so let's talk about what a gold rush is, right? And I think like once I stopped being dumb and like actually like looked up and thought about the gold rush in terms of like what it means to, you know, world history, right? Whenever, you know, the idea of people, you know, someone finding gold somewhere and colonizers or settlers, everybody rushing to that location to think that they're also going to find gold in that same place. Then the song makes perfect sense. This idea of like, you know, so how I interpret the song is like this song is like Taylor daydreaming about somebody who, let's just say a guy who is really attractive or seems really great on paper, but the type of person that a bunch of people would like and a bunch of people would probably go after. And from there, I think I like that Taylor is kind of saying, I don't really want to be with somebody who is always going to be under attack, for lack of a better phrase, from like, other people wanting to be with them, or like with the potential of, other people flirting with them or cheating, stuff like that. I think there's that element of it. But also kind of what you were saying is like, this person seems so good on the outside, and it's an elusive attraction because it's an attraction to the external, not the internal. And as the song goes on, right, it develops to be like, she's talking about like, how beautiful he is on the outside, right? But then once like they're at a dinner party, she's calling him out on stuff, and like you see the problems. She can foresee the problems and the red flags. And of course, in typical Taylor fashion, she switches it up, saying at dinner parties, I won't call you out, instead of I'll call you out, I won't call you out, meaning like, okay, I can't do this. This is just pure fantasy. But, I do think that the song is cool in the way that it functions as a daydream, as a fantasy, because I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to, is this idea of like, the surface of something seeming like it's a dream, seeming like it's the greatest thing in the world. But then when you take the extra step and start thinking about it more practically and more reasonably, you realize, okay, I'm better off without the gold here. So Ash, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because like, I always thought that like, I love talking about it with you because I always kind of thought of it as like the opposite when she's saying, I call you out. I always thought of that as like, if you're in a relationship and you're at a dinner party, it's good if you can call your partner out and be like, oh, you're being so silly. And then the other one is like, I'm not going to do that because like, it's like, but like we're saying the exact same thing, but interpreting the line slightly different, which I think is like super fun.
And Taylor Swift, right? That's what she does.
That's just how she is. And I also think it's really interesting because when you were talking about like almost, if you were looking at like a celebrity, like a guy who everybody would like, Taylor could have been writing this from like a perspective of somebody thinking about wanting to date her and being like, wow, there's like way too many problems there. I mean, for me, it would be Conan O'Brien, right? Like everybody wants to date him. I know it, guys. Like, he is mine. Don't steal him. But one of my favorite lines is, with your hair falling in place like dominoes, I see me padding across your wooden floors with my eagle shirt hanging from the door. Like that is like a perfect place to be like, I see myself in your bed. I see myself walking across the floor to get a glass of water after bed bliss. I see myself like doing all these things. And it's fun that she says with my Eagles t-shirt hanging on your door, because obviously that t-shirt would be for a different team now. But I just think it's just a really fun song. And I feel like it's a really good song if like you just have like a silly crush on somebody that isn't, it's not going anywhere. It's not meant to go anywhere. You could be in a completely secure relationship and you just find somebody really fascinating and interesting. And then you're just like, well, you're not worth any of the amazing things I have already. But like, it's just intriguing.
Intriguing is a great word. And I love that you mentioned the Eagles, because I sit here not that far from Philadelphia. So, I am like, it's hard because like in Pennsylvania, like you're either a Steelers person from Pittsburgh or you're a Phillies person, Eagles. And I've always been, where I live, we always, it's been like indoctrinated that you're a Steelers person, but now I'm a Chiefs person. So, I mean,
I am not a Steelers person. Never have been. Probably never will. I will cheer for the Eagles if comes by. But as many, actually, maybe you guys don't know, my partner, he has been a diehard Chiefs fan since he was 5, and I'm Canadian. So for this Canadian boy to pick a random team, and if you guys don't know a lot of Chiefs lore, it's not like they were winning tons of Super Bowls up until a little bit more recently. So it was kind of funny how one of my favorite things and his favorite things collided. And now, I mean, like I've been watching the games ever since we met. But I wasn't expecting myself to just like all of a sudden be a fan of a football team, and now I am.
Well, I love it. I love that it's just organically worked out that way. And you know what? Like, I don't want to offend any Chiefs fans or just football people in general, but like deep down, there's a part of me that thinks that Taylor Swift brought the Chiefs, I know that the Chiefs were kicking ass before her, but there was an extra oomph that Taylor Swift brought to with the voodoo. You can tell I'm not a sports person.
Well, I mean, it's just like a fact that she's brought in tons of money to the NFL. However people interpret it, that be like Brads and Chads getting pissed off that they show her for 30 seconds watching her boyfriend. Oh my God, what a bitch. But at the same time, if she wasn't there, can you imagine how mad those Brads and Chads would be?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a fact that she's brought in. And one of my favorite things is seeing that there's a new group of people who were watching football because of Taylor Swift, but have also become big fans of watching football. And it doesn't have to do with her anymore. I don't think there's always like bringing new people into a fandom and enjoying it doesn't always have to be criticized. And I think sometimes, no matter what fandom it is, that can happen. But you know,
I will say,
I like how we're talking about sports.
We're just, exactly right. So, but like, going back to the song, I want to share just like my favorite line, which honestly, I've listened to this song for years and I never really felt this line until just preparing for this podcast. And it's in the chorus. Like, it's like, Ryan, listen to what she's saying. Don't listen to just the pretty music. I don't like that falling feels like flying till the bone crush. Like that is just like, that is my life. In terms of like when you're with like a really bad guy, or the guy he's bad, he's not going to work out, but there's a fantasy aspect, or even just like, relating it to anything, like something that is bad, but kind of feels good in the moment. And then as it comes crashing down, and then it just crumbles you right at the end, because you knew it was wrong from the entire time, but the adrenaline made you think that it was something good. I just think that's so, the way that the visuals here, falling feels like flying till the bone crush. Oh my God. Because it's so true. When you're in that adrenaline moment, before shit gets real, it feels like this is actually working out, but no, it's not. So anyways.
Absolutely. I remember meeting this guy, and he was like the guy that all the girls liked. And for some reason, he like kept like being interested in me, which like I found very odd, because like that's just like he's not the type of guy that I have normally like been asked out on a date by. Mm-hmm. And we had this like fun, like flirty, like friendship. And like eventually like it led to like a little bit more of us like going on dates. And I remember the first time this is embarrassing, everybody. So you're getting some interesting tea here. And I'm embarrassed that I said tea. But so he like leaned in to kiss me for the first time. And like, I liked him so much. Like I liked him so much. Ryan, I literally said, I put my hands up like in between us, and I said, I feel awkward. And I just got out of the car and ran away.
So let's translate that to Taylor Swift speak, which is,
that was
I
I
don't like a gold rush.
That was just me being like, whoa, actually. And then you know what? It was my body. It was my mind saying, this is not right. Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. Because then things like, we ended up like hanging out a lot more. And then he ghosted me to go and ditched me to go date another girl who also name was Ashley.
Weird. Okay.
What a dick.
Yeah, what a dick. And again, I think this is exactly what Taylor is talking about in Gold Rush, and that this idea of like being somebody who is, like the fact that the way that you just described, because that's how I would describe a lot of people too, is like, why would you want, you're so pretty, why are you looking at me? It's like, that is kind of what I get from this song, is like this idea of like, yeah, you're amazing, you're hot, you're accomplished, you're whatever, but I don't know if I want to be with somebody who everyone else is chasing. Like, that doesn't sound like it's going to be a healthy thing for
I literally ran away.
Literally, you put your hands up. So, but anyways, I just want to relate this back to Scream quickly, because
probably a good idea.
Because, just thinking about the idea of a gold rush, and like, I think Scream was the gold rush, right? Because like it came out in 1996, and the sequels, right, were equally as successful, but no other movie came close to Scream's success. There were a lot of imitators. There were a lot of people that were chasing that. There was almost like a gold rush after 1996 with, the Scream adjacent movies, like, Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was probably the closest thing we had to a second Scream. But The Faculty, even H2O wasn't nearly as successful as Scream. So there was almost this promise, this rush of people of studios and businesses that ran towards Scream's success. And you hear it all the time when you listen to people of that time period talking about the late 90s. Was, if Scream did it, we need to do it. There was a gold rush. And like, even, in today's world, where Scream in Halloween in 2018 kind of recreated something, people are rushing toward it. Look at I Know What You Did Last Summer right now. There's a gold rush toward the Scream formula and stuff. So I just think it's also applicable to the film industry.
And speaking about the film industry, one of speaking of the box office buds, it's so unique how they do it, their podcast. And I feel like we can tie that back to them with how their podcast has a lot to do with the success of films and what that means. And does that necessarily mean, like, does like a box office like a box office star versus something that doesn't do well in the box office. Like, what does that actually mean for film and the quality of those films? And I think something I've learned is that those numbers don't always mean everything. Something can be glitzy and glamorous and look so perfect in trailers. And then when you sit there, you're like, what the hell did I just spend 2 hours watching?
I'm going to make a funny joke. Don't take it personally. Says the Scream 4 person. I'm teasing.
Hey, I was working at the movie theater when that came out, and I went a bunch of times, even though I got to see it for free.
I did too. I went literally 8 times to see Scream 4. So I did my part, I guess, other people didn't do theirs. So.
You know what? My mom just found an entire box of old movie posters that I collected from the movie theater.
Ooh.
And now I'm like, I wonder if I have any Scream 4 ones.
You may. You should dig it out.
Look.
So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed the Box Office Buds. I hope you enjoyed the Straight Bros, and I hope you enjoyed me and Ashley. Ash, where can they find you online?
You can find me at Squirrel and Spud 9 on Instagram. There you'll find a link to my Etsy shop, and you'll also find a weekly puzzle that Ryan and I concoct, which is something Scream related and usually pretty fun. I think everybody's having a lot of fun with them. So tune in on Wednesdays in the morning, and hopefully you'll be one of the first people to get the answer right.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!